South Africa wraps up what's been a very consequential year on the global stage, characterized by an unprecedented decline in the bilateral relationship with the United States and a triumphant presidency of the G20 and the historic hosting of the first Leaders Summit on African soil. As the year draws to a close, the country is now navigating what's already shaping up to be a complex G20 presidency of the United States, which has kicked off with the exclusion of South Africa from the first G20 sherpas meeting, which is set for next week in Washington. In response, South Africa has reportedly officially asked other G20 members to object to the country's exclusion, officially communicating that request with the embassies and high commissions of those countries. So I'm going to speak now to the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, who joins me in studio for that conversation. Minister, good afternoon, and thank you for coming through to have this conversation with me. Firstly, let me ask you about this. We're reporting that you have officially, through official diplomatic channels, asked G20 member states to object. What have you done that, and what exactly are you asking them as separate from what others had suggested, a boycott of G20 meetings?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Tulas. Indeed, we have sent a note verbal and engaged with the various embassies, including their capital, on this issue of South Africa's exclusion from the G20. As you are aware, we are the founding member. But you are correct. We are not requesting them to boycott, because this will play into the hands of the US that wants to play unilateral politics, where they can make decisions on behalf of the world without anyone being there. So it will be a missed opportunity for us to say they must boycott. They must go to the US, they must engage them and say this is wrong. It's not in line with the G20 founding etiquette and norms as it is known, because South Africa is a founding member. We have always participated. We should continue to participate, but also we are the Troika as the outgone presidency of the G20. So we were asking them to raise the matter sharply and also to continue to affirm the platform of multilateralism, because these are platforms that have served the world well since since the Second World War.
Yeah.
Yes.
With what end in sight? Object with what end in sight? With looking to remedy, because this is the first of many, many meetings that will take place.
Yes, look to remedy the situation, but also to record it in the minutes. In this platform, it is enough that this issue has been raised. It is in the platform. It is under discussion. But there are also many other issues that needs to be engaged, like our declarations, the outcomes, the issues related to global governance, multilateralism, the financial architecture, and the issues of climate change and so forth. So we think the world should not retreat from that. So this is a very good platform. As you are aware, the whole of this year, it has been decisions taken in Washington on a unilateral basis with regards to trade and so forth, and also the US withdrawing from a variety of multilateral platforms. So if we give them a boycott, we will be further giving them the opportunity to be working alone.
Yeah.
So they must be engaged, those countries, and we are glad that most of them are saying we are ready. We will go and engage with Washington on this issue and all issues affecting the globe.
Yeah, in fact, I was about to ask you, what kind of a hearing are you receiving from the other G20 member states? We know the position of Germany. I think that's been publicized enough. Just their affirmation of South Africa as an integral part of the G20. Is that replicated across the other countries?
Yes, it is. A majority of them, through the Sherpa level and through their capitals, are very clear that South Africa is a founding member of the G20. They continue to affirm the platform of multilateralism, and that they will continue to raise these very important issues, and they will be going to Washington to continue to ensure that multilateralism is affirmed by them, and also to engage on all the issues affecting the G20 and all institutions.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, Minister, just as a last point on this theme, is there a sense of acceptance on our part that yes, the other countries can go to Washington at the very first Sherpas meeting, raise this issue sharply, and through other platforms as well, raise it sharply. But if there's no relenting on the side of the United States, is there a resignation and an acceptance on our part that we may just sit out all activities of the G20 for the coming year?
Yeah, we will not barge into the meeting uninvited. Neither will we call for a boycott, because, as I've already said, a boycott gives Washington the platform to take unilateral decisions when there is a platform where they can be engaged. So we will not budge, but we remain ready as a founding member. If accredited and allow, South Africa will go on and continue to participate in line with our progressive stance. We will not shift from what has always been our positions, informed by a human rights outlook, our progressive outlook, affirming of the global South and the African continent.
Yeah. Let's talk about that relationship with the United States as a bilateral relationship now. It's been an extraordinary year. Characterized, I think, by attempts on our side to clarify what we initially thought were misunderstandings of dynamics and policies in this country. But I get the sense that, that towards the end of the year, we've sort of accepted that many of what we thought were misconceptions are not misconceptions. It's basically pretexts and understandings that Washington wants to have. So there were these attempts to try and restore the relationship. Is that still ongoing? And how far is it since you were in Washington in the White House?
Yeah, we will never get tired that is the life of diplomats. It's diplomats to continue to try to mend relations and engage. We'll never get tired. And we will also not get tired to clarify when there are the untruths and the misrepresentation of the issues happening in our country, including to affirm our sovereignty on issues of domestic policy, on affirmative action, on the expropriation and so forth. That we will never, and we have been firm from the onset, including, you will remember, Tulas, the agenda of the G20. We were also very firm that the theme, we are not going to change. But we will not get tired to engage with Washington to clarify, because they remain an important strategic partner for South Africa at a bilateral level, economically. So it is important that we continue to open that line of communication and allow it to enable the bridge. But it's clear, as you are saying, that from their perspective, it's an ideological a view that they have taken with regards to South Africa, because the DEE is contrary to what South Africa stands for in terms of inclusivity, in terms of diversity, in terms of racial harmony, and so forth.
Yeah, but at what level are these conversations, Minister? I guess I'm trying to gauge a sense of progress, because, you know, obviously the meeting in the White House with both presidents and the delegations was important and was the high point, with the belief that there would be follow through. Do you, for example, speak to Secretary Rubio from time to time?
No. After the Washington visit, there was a platform of engagements that was opened up. The Deputy State Secretary, we had lots of exchange, including with our DM, Bottes, and also Nell, on a number of issues, but also trade with the Washington Trade Office in the US. They were also having a channel of engagements. And what we sought to achieve was to separate the political, geopolitical issues from the trade issues. And I think at some point we achieved that for the trade negotiations and engagements to continue, because the political and geopolitical issues were clear that it's long-term issues that we will continue to have to engage with. So even now, as we speak, the trade track, there is still some communication, some negotiations, some processes that is ongoing. Unfortunately, we still can't say we predict what will be the outcome because of the nature of the uncertainties, but there is some engagement. With regards to us, there was up until just prior to the G20 when we all saw the tweet, the Truth Social platform. But we still continue to engage now with the mission here in South Africa. And we remain seized with the matter and open to any form of engagement from Washington. Yeah. But what we will not do is to compromise on the principles of what South Africa stands for, because some of the issues goes to the country's sovereignty.
Last point on the U.S.-South Africa bilateral relationship. Has the president given any further thought as to the appointment of our next ambassador to the United States? And has anything come through from Washington about the next ambassador that they've already designated and gotten approval for?
Yeah, the president is always seized with this matter of an ambassador to the U.S., and he always gives it consideration. And it's an issue that we will have to look into broadly, also in the context of the ongoing relationship. So that's why you see him taking some time, but at the right time he will be able to make the announcement. But it's a matter that is on top of his mind, waiting for the proper context that will enable the conditions. As you can see, the conditions remains difficult. With regards from Washington, we are awaiting their own processes. We have seen the nominations and so forth. And once that process is concluded, we will look into the matter.
Just another theme that it occurs that we didn't touch on, AGOA, and I promise this is the last bit on the United States. AGOA back firmly before the agenda for Congress, because there was that disruption when, you know, almost like a flux in terms of the legislative processes in the United States. They've put it firmly back, and indications are, while it will be renewed for a further 3 years, I believe, South Africa's participation remains uncertain. How concerned are we, given the kind of trade activity that AGOA has enabled, important for certain sectors in agriculture, for example?
Yeah, prior to that, there was very strong positive indicators that South Africa will still be part of AGOA, just before the G20. But after that, there has been some retreat, and as you have seen, the bill that has been introduced. But we have always been clear to South African public and business that we need to prepare for the worst-case scenario with the U.S. because it is unpredictable and unreliable on these trade engagements and even some of the discussions. So we need to prepare for the worst-case scenario, including to work more on the diversification strategy that South Africa has put forward and has been engaged with business and with all the social partners. And there is already some green shoots that are showing that through the SARS data that more efforts need to be put on the diversification strategy.
Yeah. So with that and the difficulties with the U.S. relationship, what pathways is that opening towards strengthening relationships with other regions of the world? You'll correct me if I'm wrong. I observed a particular dynamic as far as Europe, the EU is concerned, that seemed to be much stronger. Several announcements around investments that are going to be made by the EU. What's at play there? Are we forced to look in that direction, or is it a natural evolution of what's already been a strong relationship anyway?
Yeah, it is a natural evolution because we look at our relation with the U.S. at a bilateral level. We look same our relations with the U.S., with the EU at a bilateral level. And that relation has been very strong. They've been one of our most reliable trading partners. And this year was a year due for our summit with the EU, which further strengthened our partnership and went beyond the earlier issues because now we were more clearer on issues of beneficiation or value addition at source. There were a number of agreements, including the issues of gateways, investment into the country, but also working together on some of the investment throughout the continent. So this is a natural evolution out of the period which we're coming from. That was under review, but it's also a key strategic objective on our side to continue to diversify the role of South African business and trade across the globe, Southeast Asia, China, but also anchored through the AFCTA, the African continent. Already the AFCTA, you can see some of the green shoots that are coming out.
Are you satisfied that in the midst of all of that, navigating the Washington relationship, strengthening other relationships, including Europe and the EU, are you satisfied that we did enough to advance causes globally, that we had decided that we would not stand back and we're going to be involved? Specifically, let me ask you about Ukraine. Any further involvement on the part of South Africa since the last, overtures and attempts that we had, including the whole issue where we were going to be involved in the attempt to get Russia to release children that have been captured, Ukrainian children that have been captured, but also as part of the African Leaders Initiative?
Yes, we are very satisfied. If you remember, President Zelensky came to South Africa, and our president also had a number of engagements with President Zelensky, also with President Putin, on all these issues on the Africa Initiative, on how to strengthen these peace engagements through the Ukrainian Peace Formula and the Africa Initiative. And our Director General and the Security Advisor of the President, Prof. Muhammad, they've also participated in a number of such initiatives. They continue to do so. So we have done our best. We continue to. Prior to President Trump, our president was the only president who was able to speak to both President Zelensky and President Putin. So President Trump has come in, the Washington has put a plan, 24 peace plan, which we look forward to engage with and to complement its work. Hopefully something will come out of it. We always continue to embark on the fact that with all these peace engagements, the UN Security Council must have a role to play to ensure that these peace agreements have got the backing of the UN, but also they can be able to be concretized in real life experiences on the ground across the globe.
Yeah, and as far as the Middle East is concerned, Israel and Gaza, how far are we with that case that we were pursuing at the ICJ? What's the latest that your team has told you by way of an update?
The case is still on. Israel has requested an extension to make their response to our very detailed forensic submission to the court with the compelling evidence that they are working on now to respond. So we are waiting for them to respond, and once that is concluded, I believe then the court will set up dates. So maybe that could be around 2027 or 2028. But in addition to that, we will know that we also lead what is called the Hague Group with Colombia, which is aimed to coordinate and defend and vindicate the rule of law in the international platform so that it continues to be respected. It's anchored along those lines. And the case, you will be aware, we have also been joined by a number of countries in that case, which wants to see accountability, Colombia, Spain, Turkey. So there's a number of countries that have joined the case in the court, which we highly welcome, and we look forward to the merits of the matter being dealt with.
Why is this an issue that South Africa is not willing to relent on? Occasionally you hear a voice, some voices in our society that say, why are we taking up this cause, even to the peril and detriment to the extent that it weighs in considerations and other relationships, just our stance in terms of what Israel is doing in Gaza?
Because it's about the rule of law. There can only be order in the world or in any society when the rule of law is respected and protected. And that's why the Hague Group is aimed to defend and protect the rule of law. If the rule of law is not protected, is not safeguarded by society and countries like us, South Africa, who are member states, it will be where the might becomes right. It will be the law of the jungle. And it will be against the Palestinians today. Tomorrow, when it's against us or the onslaught is against any other country, no one will stand up because the rule of law would have been taken out. So it's important that we vindicate the rule of law, internationally, but even domestically. For any domestic affairs, for stability, the rule of law is very important. So South Africa has got a role and an important point to ensure that the rule of law is vindicated. But you are also aware, we also have the history of apartheid. We are better positioned to inform the world when we see it. And that's why our submission were very authoritative on the unlawful occupation of Israel, of the Palestinian. When you read the judgment on a separate case, not the South African case,
yeah,
where the UN wanted a legal opinion, our submission was very authoritative to persuade the court that apartheid, what is currently happening there, is apartheid. So South Africa has got an important duty in terms of the Genocide Convention. And the convention is also clear. Every member state has a duty. So we are discharging our duty.
So, Minister, I'm on standby. Our viewers will be seeing at the bottom of the screen, there's an important media briefing that is about to get underway relating to the temple collapse in Verulam. But you and I will push our conversation as far as we can, because I've got quite a few other points to cover with you. In all of that business of being busy on so many fronts, what would you say to a critique that says perhaps the African agenda has not been as pronounced as it used to be for us as South Africa? We started the year with a bit of tension with Rwanda, for example. How far have we gone towards normalizing that, as well as the role that we can possibly play at a diplomatic level around resolving conflicts on our continent? Because now many watch and see these conversations happening in Doha, in Washington.
We continue to be seized with the matter. Our president hosted a number of the warring factions with regards to Sudan, which is the biggest conflict now. He has had engagement, although there has not been really a breakthrough. But we continue to call for them to open the lines of engagement. With regards to South Sudan, we have visited South Sudan. The Deputy President has visited South Sudan. We have engaged all the parties with regards to the revitalized peace agreement in South Sudan to hold, but also to support their process to go to the elections in South Sudan. As you have said, with regards to the DRC, we have always been seized with the matter, even at the SADC level, at the AU level, up until what you are referring to with regards to Rwanda. And even with the withdrawal of the South African National Defence Force through the SADC processes, we still engage with the process, and our president remains engaged with the President Tshisekedi on the matter of the Eastern DRC, and also with the President Kagame. They had a chance on the sideline of the EU gateway in Brussels, and hopefully soon there will also be an engagement that is physical, that is substantive on the matter, maybe early next year. And also with regards to our own region, you will know that South Africa is now taken over as the interim chair of SADC because of what has happened in Madagascar. So we remain seized with the issues of the continent.
All right. Minister, I believe that briefing by Minister Dean McPherson is about to get underway. So the Government of National Unity taking over in as far as our broadcast plans are concerned. I'm just watching it to see if I can squeeze in, because I wanted to add a question to you about, do our BRICS partners speak up loudly enough for us when we are under pressure, in part for our association with them in the broader geopolitical conversation? I've seen that critique that says they don't seem to speak up loud enough for us.
I mean, the best way to speak is action.
All right.
The G20 was a classical example. They were here, they were supported, they were very vocal.
I'm sorry, Minister. I do need to go to that briefing, if you don't mind. I know you have another appointment.